Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today, let's talk about a 2019 Nigerian movie. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe to help the channel out. In the beginning of the movie, we see Donray Williams. Donray is an impudent young man who lives off his mother's wealth. He is also a graduate of engineering, but he sees no use of getting a job because of his rich background. We also see his two friends Steve and Jaidi. It's past midnight and the friends are out partying from one joint to another. Meanwhile, we also see Donray's mom Mrs. Williams and her husband Dr. Mike. They both have been up all night waiting for him to return. While at the club, the waiter brings their bill, so Donray rudely hands her his credit card for payment. The card is declined, so Donray asks her to get another machine, using a very demeaning tone. When she does so, the card is also declined, so the waiter has no option than to call her manager to intervene. The manager asks the waiter how much the bill is, to which she replies it's 200,000. Donray calls it cheap money, so the manager suggests that he uses his bank transfer for the payment. When Donray checks his account, he could only find 100,000 in it. He's immediately humbled, so he calls Steve, who is outside having a good time. Steve tells him that he only has 5,000 with him, so he hangs up and asks Jaidi if he has any cash on him, but Jaidi tells him he only has a few change in his pocket. The girls they brought to the club walks away when they realize things might go bad in a few minutes. So the manager tells them to transfer the 100,000 they have with them, and also drop the staff Donray is holding with him. Donray again protests, saying that the staff is something he cannot let go for even a minute. The manager calls the bouncer on the guys, so they have no option but to let go of the staff. While angrily going out of the club, Donray vows to deal with the club for humiliating him in such manner. He also says the staff belongs to his late father, hence he must get it back no matter what. Later on, we see Donray knocking at his friend's door. Her name is Nana. Donray asks Nana to loan him some money for the night, but when she tries to ask what he needs it for, Donray is too drunk to explain himself. She takes him inside and cleans him up, then he ends up spending the night at her place. The next day, we see Donray confronting his mother for not sending his allowance to his account. When she asks him where he was the previous night, he uses foul language at her, which in turn makes her teary. Donray continues with his use of foul language, so his mom tells him that she would no longer be his cash cow until he decides to change his attitude. When Sunday tries to intervene, Donray shuts him up and reminds him that he is not his dad and should not interfere in their conversation. He further berates his mom for getting married to him just after his father's death, but this only earns him a slap from her, then he walks out on her. Days later, we see Donray in his friend's house playing billiard with Steve. Donray tells Steve that his mother is no longer his cash cow, and so he'll have to get a job for himself. Steve responds by stating how bad the economy is, and how difficult it is to secure a job without experience. Donray reminds Steve that he is a first-class holder, and that he'll get a job with or without the help of his mom. He brings up the issue of getting his father's staff back from the club, so Steve suggests he borrows some money from Nana to do so. Trying to mock his friends, Donray tells Steve that not everybody is comfortable leeching off from their rich friends, indirectly berating his friends for being with him for being from a rich background. Steve reminds him that he is no different from them, since he equally leeches off his rich mom in order to stay financially afloat. The two eventually get in an altercation after this, so Steve angrily sends Donray out of his house. Afterwards, we are shown a montage of Donray going for job interviews and not getting one because of his lack of experience. He confidently boasts about his perfect certificates, but the interviewers tells him that a minimum of 5 years experience is what he'll need. One evening after an unsuccessful job interview, Donray calls Nana and tells her how difficult it is to land a job in the city. Nana tells him that he can get a job with his mother's influence, but he tells her that he doesn't want to involve his mother in his life anymore. Later on, we see Donray heading to another job interview. While in the elevator, a pregnant woman walks in and mistakenly spills some soda on him. He insults the woman even when she repeatedly apologizes to him, so she goes ballistic and hurls insults on him as well. By the way, her name is Abigail. The two finally part ways when they get to their destination. Then we see Abigail waiting on her employer at the reception. She is eventually told by the receptionist Jessica that her employer has gone out, so she decides to go back home disappointed. While trying to get into the elevator, she sees Donray, whose facial expression shows nothing but disappointment. While going down, the power goes off and the two is trapped in the elevator. Abigail screams vehemently for help, but Donray tries to shut her up, stating that it's a commercial building, and that they should have backup generators. Being a less educated woman, Abigail shoves him off and continues with a plea for help. We also see the receptionist calling the security guard to put on the backup generator. He tells her that the both generators are faulty, and that the maintenance personnel is off duty. Back in the elevator, the light comes back on, but goes off seconds later, causing the elevator to break down and eventually trap Don Ray and Abigail in an isolated floor. When Don Ray gets up, he sees Abigail moaning in pains because her water just broke. This gets Don Ray scared, so he starts shouting out for help like Abigail was doing earlier. Back in the top floor, the manager comes out and confronts Jessica about the power outage. She explains that the generator is faulty, but the manager opined that they have 2 backup generators. She tells him that they are all faulty, so the manager orders her to call the maintenance personnel, to which she does immediately. When the personnel picks up, we are introduced to Taju on the other side of the line. She tells Taju about the power outage and the state of the generators, but he makes a lie about being in traffic, and that he'll be there in about 2 hours. When Jessica drops the call and tells the manager what Taju said, he tells her to get the power back by all means, otherwise she'll lose her job alongside other staffs. Meanwhile, Abigail has regained consciousness, but she is about to go into labor, so Don Ray tries calling his friend Jaidi. When Jaidi picks up, Don Ray explains everything to him, but he takes it as one of his usual jokes. He tells Don Ray to send video evidence of him in an elevator with a pregnant woman, to which Don Ray furiously ends the call and makes the video, calling out for help from his friends. Back on the top floor, the lights is back on and we see Abigail's employer walking into the floor after using the stairs. Her name is Mrs. Ioku. She asks Jessica why the elevator isn't working, so Jessica tells her that the generator, as well as the backup generators, are faulty. Mrs. Ioku asks if she had any visitors while away, so Jessica tells her Abigail came by. She asks how long ago it was, and Jessica tells her it's not been up to 30 minutes. Mrs. Ajaku just came in 30 minutes ago, so she gets suspicious and asks Jessica to call the security to find out if Abigail left the building. The security man says she hasn't left the building since she went inside. They both immediately realize that Abigail might be stuck in the elevator, so they call the security man to meet them up at the elevator. Back in the elevator, Don Ray's phone goes off, so he uses Abigail's phone to call Nana. Nana takes it as a joke the first time, then she hangs up. Don Ray calls again, so Nana eventually realizes he isn't joking. He tells Nana that Abigail's water has broken, and that she's about to go into labor, so Nana pens down the address and tells Don Ray she'll get help. Meanwhile, Mrs. Ioku and the others finally locate the floor where Don Ray and Abigail is trapped, but they can't get them out without the help of the maintenance personnel. They decide to wait up there, telling Abigail and Don Ray that help is on the way. Nana manages to get in touch with Mrs. Williams, who is away on a business trip, so she explains everything to her and also sends her Abigail's contact. Mrs. Williams calls Don Ray, then he tells her their current situation and also says that the building has called for help, which would get there in 45 minutes. Mrs. Williams asks about the pregnant woman, so Don Ray tells her that she's having contractions and things might get worse if help doesn't come on time. Mrs. Williams calls her husband Dr. Mike, who eventually manages to get in contact with Don Ray. When Don Ray picks up, he acts cold towards Dr. Mike at first, but the two eventually keeps their differences aside, seeing that they need each other at this point. Dr. Mike passes some medical direction to Don Ray, to which he follows after hesitating for some time. He eventually delivers the baby himself, and then the maintained personnel eventually brings them out of the elevator. When they get out of the building, Steve and Jaidi apologizes for not coming to his aid when he needed them most. They hand him his father's staff, which they managed to recover from the club. Then the guys are seen praising him for having the courage to do what he did in the elevator. In the concluding scene, we see Don Ray and Dr. Mike finally putting their differences aside and becoming good friends. Moral of the story: be polite to everyone you meet, regardless of the room. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to help the channel out.